Yamuna Priya Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Gunja Vihari Jaya Radha Jaya Gunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Gunja Vihari Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, reading from Preaching is the Essence. I don't really know what we're up to. Okay, so this is the, I guess it's in bold, it's like the title. A preacher's duty is to induce the offenders to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches us that those whom preachers meet are almost all offenders who are opposed to Krishna consciousness. But it is a preacher's duty to convince them of the Krishna consciousness movement and then induce them to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Our propagation of the Sankirtan movement is continuing. Despite many opponents and people are taking this chanting process even in remote parts of the world like Africa. By inducing the offenders to chant the Hare Krishna mantra, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exemplified the success of Krishna consciousness movement. We should follow very respectfully in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya, and there is no doubt that we shall be successful in our attempts. C.C. Ali, Leela 7, Chapter 7, Text 150. Okay. A preacher's duty is to induce the offenders to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So in this purport here to text 150 of chapter 7, Prabhupada saying, everyone who we meet out there is an offender against the holy name. Pretty much all of them. Because when they're chanting it, they're unconsciously chanting it, which in the Bhagavatam in the first, is that the first chapter, takes 14 hours. Even if one unconsciously chants this Maha Mantra, then he can immediately attain liberation. But they're offenders against the holy name when we meet them, because most of them, when we're out there, they're really actually looking at us like, we're crazy people. And some of them, even like when we meet them on the street, are very opposed to us. They really don't like us, So even to these people, the preachers are very compassionate. Vaishnava is called Paradukha-dukhi. He's very compassionate. He himself doesn't have material miseries. He doesn't experience these material miseries, but because he sees the conditioned souls experiencing these miseries, he's actually very miserable inside. He feels a lot of compassion for them. So out of that, Srila Prabhupada says, when Brahma has to satisfy Shiva in the 4th canto, he says how that a preacher never becomes angry with these offenders. That he understands, because they're under the modes of material nature, that they have become like this. And because he sees that, he simply takes the heart of those people and turns it towards Krishna. So that is the duty of the preacher, is to, even at the cost of them making offenses, we go out there every day and preach to them and show them what the real thing is. And Prabhupada says in the end of this purport here that, we should follow very respectfully in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya. And there is no doubt that we shall be successful in our attempts. This is the Sankirtan movement. We should follow very respectfully. Don't change it. That's the movement. It's Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. Sankirtan, going out there and performing Kirtan together. Thank you, Prabhuji. And performing Sankirtan together. And by doing that, by spreading the Krishna consciousness movement, Prabhupada says how we're creating pious activity for them. They're getting piety. Just by hearing the holy name, they're getting so much pious credit in their bank account, so they can ultimately come to this stage of Krishna consciousness. And that is the way how we should be preaching every day. That whole movement should be based around this, centered around that. If we, like, the one thing I see here in New York is me and Cruz have come from Adelaide, and this is our last day actually here. So our experience here, from my experience personally, is that everything is centered around our Sankirtan, our 6 hours a day, Harinam and book distribution. What we do in the morning program is done for our book distribution and our Harinam. When we clean the house, it's done for our Sankirtan. When we do anything in the house, cook, clean, serve, whatever we're doing is done for the enhancement of our purity when we're going out there. So when this is the center, it becomes very easy to follow the morning program, to read a lot, to chant a lot, because you're inspired to, because you're going out there. And when you're out there, it's very heavy. New York is a very heavy place. Pavan, who was saying yesterday, he just arrived from Vrindavan, he's saying he arrived and he just could feel the energy, how horrible it was in New York. That it's just like, so the modes of material nature are acting so much, just like you just walk outside and you can just like instantly see someone drinking, someone, down the road. You can go to a bar, and so many strip clubs here and there. It's just 4 regular principles are the way of life for them. So when that's happening, it's for us to be inspired to take our sadhana seriously. It's a lot easier, because they're like, all right, we gotta get out there. We don't want to be influenced by the modes of material nature. We gotta transcend these when we're out there, so we can actually give this Krishna consciousness movement to people. So this is this is the movement, is that we center everything, Varnashram Dharma, whatever service we're doing in the temple, whatever service we're doing even in our job or your work, you center this around the Sankirtan movement, then everything will be successful. Everything will just fall into place. And you can see that nobody really has so much faith in this principle. They were doing it in Prabhupada's time, and the movement took off like anything. And then you see how the trend is, if you put a graph to it or something, you'll see how as the book distribution and the Harinam decreased, how our society was falling away. It wasn't following the tradition. Maharaj talks about this in Bhakti Vikas Maharaj. He talks about how anytime a tradition, anytime a particular religious organization falls away is because they stop following tradition. They start inventing their new ideas. Prabhupada says in the purport that in the Vedic system you can't create a new system. It's been established by authorities. You're not allowed to come and create this new system of, okay, we're going to do it like this now. This is not what Vedic society is or what our acharyas are teaching. Because they're on the platform above the material modes of material nature, and they're inspired by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. So what they're speaking and what they're giving is absolutely perfect. And we should take that very seriously. That what they're saying is absolutely perfect, and we should follow that in that footstep, just exactly as they said, not deviating from the path of the Sankirtan movement. Anytime we go away from it, you can see how your spiritual life goes down instantly. It's very, very, very easy to see. You come into association with devotees who are doing Harinam. Even amongst devotees, you can see the distinction so easily between devotees who do Harinam and who don't do Harinam. It's very easy to see, how serious those devotees who are going out every day, what their sadhana is like, and then even if you happen to compare, it's very, you can see the distinction, the purity. When you associate with such Sankirtan devotees, it's very transcendental, Being here for 3 months, associating with all the devotees here, it's like, it's a lot of fun. And I often say it feels like I'm back in high school. High school, is a time where you just hang out with your friends and, you do a lot of things here and there. But when I came here, I felt the same, like that I was like a little bit of a kid again, teenager again. And I could have that same fun, that same intensity of whatever I was doing, and even like a lot more than that, what to speak of that was so insignificant compared to what I got in the association of devotees here. Is that, and on that is that it's completely spiritual. When there's let's say if there's some humor, it's all about book distribution or Harinam or what happened on Sankirtan today. It's never mundane things about talking about women and this and that, all these mundane things. It's all transcendental,
There are talks about women sometimes.
Huh?
There are talks about women.
There is talks about women, but it's very in a different level, let's say, in the next level.
Different cultures.
But yeah, so it's very transcendental, and you can feel it when you're around these different. It's like, wow, like me, Mohansa and Vishwajit Prabhu went to book distribution to this temple in New
So-called
Jersey.
temple.
So-called temple, New Jersey, right?
Yeah.
So the whole day we were on books, and it was the most ecstatic thing. It was 12 hours, right? 12 hours. 13 hours, right? We left at like 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And came back at 10 o'clock at night. How many hours of sleep did we get that night? We had 3 hours of sleep that night, I think, because we got there very late from New York.
Yeah.
And it was just like completely transcendental, It was so like, it just couldn't, there was no limit. It would just keep increasing. Like we went on break and I was having prashad and I was coming back. I'm like, all right, I guess we gotta go again, maybe it won't be as good. And then you distribute a book and it's like, oh my gosh, And the amount of fun you have on it, the amount of, this ecstasy you experience on books and Harinam is incomparable to anything else. And when we give that to people that are coming and seeing this movement, then they can see, they're like, wow, okay, these guys are happy. What's so amazing about them? Like, why are they so happy all the time? Yeah. But when we present things in a very hidden way, it's easy to sense what's going on. There's something really weird about this. It doesn't. It just. You can feel that it's not right, because you come in and there's like pictures of Krishna here and there and things, but they won't talk about it very vague. They won't talk about who Krishna is, what he does. They'll talk about what Krishna teaches perhaps, but they won't even talk about who taught that, who's teaching this philosophy, who's speaking in the Bhagavad Gita. So when we present it as it is, then those who are sincere can see this is the truth and take to it very easily. So following in the footsteps of Mahaprabhu is the only way that one can actually be successful in our attempts to go back home, back to Godhead. Without that, it's hopeless. There's no back door. There's no, you can't purchase a black market ticket. It's all, it's just your endeavor and your sincerity to serve the acharyas in their, in their movement. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, text 26, chapter 3, text 26. Avataraha. He. Asankheyaha.
Asankheyaha. Harehe.
Satvanidhihi. Dvijaha. Yata. Avidyasinaha.
Kulyaha.
Saharsaha.
Sarasaha. Sahasraha.
Avatarehe asankheya. Hare sattva nidhe dvijaha. Yata vidyashina kulyaha. Sahasrashu sahasrasaha.
Sahasraha.
Avatarehe asankheya. Hare sattva nidhi dvijaha. Yata vidyashina kulya. Sarasaha sayushu saharsaha. Avatare asankheya. Hare sattva nidhi dvijaha. Yata vidyashina kulyaha. Saharsaha syu saharsaha.
Sarasasyu sahasraha. Avatarya Sankheya. Hare sattva nidhe dvijaha. Yata vidashina kulyaha. Sarasahasyu sahasrashaha.
Avatarya Sankheya.
Hare
sattva nidhe dvijaha. Yata vidashina kulyaha. Sarasasyu sahasrasaha.
Avatārya Sankheya.
Hare sattva nidhe dvijaha.
Yata vidashina
Yata vidashina kulyaha.
Yata Videshina Kuya
Sarasashu Sahasrashaha
Sarasashu Sahasrashaha.
Word to word. Avatara.
Avatara.
Incarnation.
Incarnations.
He.
Certainly.
Asankheya.
Asankheya.
Innumerable.
Hare.
Of Hari. The Lord. Satvanidhi.
Sattvanidhe.
Of the ocean of goodness.
Of the ocean of goodness.
Dvijaha.
Vijaha.
The Brahmanas.
The Brahmanas.
Yataha. As it is. Avidyashina. Inexhaustible.
Inexhaustible. Come on. Kuyaha. Rivulets.
Sarasaha.
Sarasaha.
Of vast lakes. Shivu. Sahasraha.
Sahasraha.
Thousands of. Translation. O Brahmanas, the incarnation of the Lord are innumerable, like rivulets flowing from inexhaustible source of water. O Brahmanas, please repeat. O Brahmanas. The incarnations of the Lord are innumerable, like rivulets flowing from
inexhaustible
sources of water. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakta Chanchal Prabhu.
Jai.
The list of incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead given herein is not complete. It is only a partial view of all incarnations. There are many others such as Sri Hayagriva, Hari Hamsa, Vishnu Garba, Bibhu, Satya Sena, Vaikuntha, Sarva Bhauma, Vishakishena, Dharma Setu, Sudhama, Yogeshwara, Radha Bhanu, and others of the bygone ages.
Bygone ages.
Shri Prahlad Maharaj said in his prayer, "My Lord, you manifest as my many incarnations as there are species of life, namely the aquatics, the vegetables, the reptiles, the birds, the beasts, the men, the demigods, just for the maintenance of the faithful and the annihilation of the unfaithful. You advent yourself in this way in accordance with the necessity of the different yugas. In the Kali Yuga, you have incarnated garbed as a devotee. This incarnation of the Lord in the Kali Yuga is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There are many other places, both in the Bhagavatam and in other scriptures, in which the incarnation of the Lord as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explicitly mentioned. In Brahma Samhita also it is said that although there are many incarnations of the Lord such as Rama, Nrsimha, Varaha, Matsya, Kurma, and many others, the Lord himself sometimes incarnates in person. Lord Krishna and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are not therefore incarnations, but original sources of all other incarnations. This will be clearly explained in the next sloka. So the Lord is the inexhaustible source of innumerable incarnations, which are not always mentioned. But such incarnations are distinguished by specific extraordinary feats which are impossible to be performed by any living being. That is the general test to identify the incarnation of the Lord, direct and indirectly empowered. Some incarnations mentioned above are almost plenary portions. For instance, the Kumaras are empowered with transcendental knowledge. Sri Narada is empowered with devotional service. Maharaj Kirti is an empowered incarnation with executive function. The Matsya incarnation is directly a plenary portion. So the innumerable incarnations of the Lord are manifested all over the universe constantly, without cessation, as water flows constantly from waterfalls. Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnava Shri Rupam Shri Sahagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Yitam Tam Shujivam Sadvaitam Savadvitam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Visaharu Yitam Chahe Krishna Karuna Singha Dina Vanda Jalapati Krishna Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchi Gaudam Radha Vrindavani Rashomani Studevi Pranamami Hari Priya Namo Vishnu Rai Vishnu Vistaya Krishna Bhakta Swami Vani Prachaya Nirvishya Shakshanyavadi Prachitya Disatani Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Shadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Okay, so yeah, in the translation again, O Brahmanas, the incarnations of the Lord are innumerable rivulets flowing from the inexhaustible sources of water. Okay, so here we're saying how Bhagavatam here is describing that the incarnations of the Lord, they're actually unlimited. You know, there's given, what is it, like 17 that's given here? More than that, right? Yeah, 22. 22 incarnations given here in the Bhagavatam, but there's many more. And as Prabhupada explains here, they're identified by specific qualities in those incarnations. Like here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam here directly how it doesn't particularly give his incarnation within these 22 incarnations. But, he's as Prabhupada says, he's the hidden incarnation in the Kali Yuga as a devotee. Right? And you can see that even when Ramananda Roy found that when he searched the scriptures and found that Mahaprabhu was the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, and he approached Mahaprabhu like this. Mahaprabhu closed his ears and couldn't take it, and him showing that one shouldn't. He's obviously exemplifying that one shouldn't even think of himself as God, or Krishna, and we see that so much in our society. That people now, Mahavira philosophy is that you're all one and you're ultimately Krishna, really a lot of nonsense, And what first one we will go into is, the Krishna incarnates in each yuga for three particular reasons. What's that verse in Bhagavad Gita? Right. So he comes to protect the devotees, annihilate the demons, and reestablish Dharma. So in every age, he's coming like this. But in particular ages, when Krishna decides to descend in his original form, then it's a little bit different. Basically the job to annihilate the demons is Vishnu Tattva. Right? So this is the job of the Vishnu Tattva. Whereas Krishna, when he comes particularly to enjoy transcendental pastimes of his devotees. So he's always absorbed in pastimes in Vrindavan with the cowherd boys, with the gopis and the residents of Vrindavan, playing, dancing, cow herding. So when he comes, he's here to just enjoy with his devotees. But when he's killing demons and when he's reestablishing Dharma, this is more of his Vishnu incarnations. How they establish more of the authority principles and Dharma, and they annihilate the demons and such like that, like that. And Krishna being the descendant of himself, his origin itself descending in this particular planet. He also comes down as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself to relish the transcendental, what what do you say? Translate what my brain is ready. Sorry? Mellows, yeah, right. Mellows of Radharani's mood of service. What it is because her devotion is so high that nobody can reach that level, and he himself can't even understand it. You know, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. He couldn't understand that, man, this, you know, Radharani could have so much love. So he himself incarnated as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the mood of Radharani in Kali Yuga. And his principles were the same. His principles was to also annihilate the demons and establish dharma and give protection to the devotees. But he did it in a very different way than what generally is done. You know, where Vishnu Tattva generally comes down and they'll personally kill him, actually kill them, kill their bodies. Whereas when Mahaprabhu is coming down, he's not directly, he's not directly worried about the body so much. He understands that the demon and the devotees are both within, and that he's got to annihilate the demon. So by giving this Mahamantra, then that this can actually kill that demon within that personality. That this is his weapon. This is his weapon. That the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the weapon itself that he's presenting in the Kali Yuga. That is his Sudarshan Chakra. So he's going and he's annihilating all the demons. These demons of preachers who preach the Mayavad philosophy of oneness, that you're one with God, you're Krishna himself. So he's preaching this philosophy, and he's established a Chintaya Veda Veda Tattva. Oneness and simultaneously oneness and different. Simultaneous difference and oneness. So that the idea is that, or the philosophy, what Mahaprabhu presents is that you're one with the Supreme in the sense that you have that same consciousness to be able to serve that what he wants. You're one with him in the sense that you want to be able to serve that personality what he wants. So you're able to go and serve that personality. Whereas you're different in the sense that you're the servitor and he's the one receiving the service. He's always the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. He's never below that, in the middle, or he's always above the Jiva Tattva. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. So the Mayavad, we see so much now in Kali Yuga that they really, you can see so much of this. What is that guy's name? Nityananda Paramahamsa? He's the one that's...
He's the best.
Oh my gosh, I really can't. You watch this guy and you're like, what is this guy talking about? What is that? He's saying recently, I will manifest all the...
He's the prediction of all the great sages, everything come true.
Oh wow. Okay.
All the avatars, everything are in him.
Right.
And that all his disciples are not human beings, but they're a different species.
Oh, wow, rascals.
And
they are a different. He can barely speak English properly. This guy, Krishna has, when he descends, he has all 5 opulences, all wealth, all beauty. Six. All wealth, all beauty, all strength. But you can see on these personalities, it's not really manifested. In Maharaj Prithvi's pastimes, you can see that when he came down, the Brahmanas, specifically the Brahmanas, had to identify him as the supreme, as an incarnation or as a Shaktivesh avatar. Not that in this Kali Yuga everyone just Shudra. But even the Brahmanas who studied this, they don't have the intellect to be able to identify who's actually an incarnation of the Lord. It's all the Shudras identifying with this. They're saying, oh wow, this guy is the Supreme Personality of God, what qualification do they have to be able to identify someone? One must be very conversant in the Shastras to be able to identify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Like what the verse in 4th canto, and this is 9 to 10. Lord Brahma, the master of living entities, arrived there accompanied by the demigods and their chiefs. Seeing the lines of the Lord Vishnu's palm on King Prithu's right hand, and impressions of lotus flowers on the soles of his feet, Lord Brahma could understand that King Prithu was a partial representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One whose palm bears the sign of a disc, as well as other such lines, should be considered a partial representation or incarnation of the Lord. And Prabhupada really smashes these, really tries to smash these Mahabharats, he says, without these symptoms, the pretender is subjected to be killed by the authorities for pretending to be an incarnation of Godhead. They're meant to be killed. These people who, they're really, it's really bad because they're exploiting these unintelligent people in Kali Yuga. They have sincerity to some extent, but because they still have the mood of being cheating or being they want to cheat still. They're being cheated by these rascals because they're not actually inquiring submissively or very looking through what's real and what's not, what's authorized and what's not. They're very sentimentally accepting things from these rascals. Oh, I'm God, alright? What? And because one little person accepts it, the other person will accept it, and then so on. And it gets very difficult for these people to come out of that. Because, influenced by this, what the main target they have is really material opulence. They really go for this, the four goals, sense gratification, religiosity, liberation, and what's the one? Sense gratification. Economic development, right. So sense gratification and economic development is the two things they really, it's like, if you do this, you get so much money. If you do this, if you just worship me, I'll give you, with my supreme powers, I'll give you all opulence. It's like rascals, They don't even have that. How can you give something that you don't even have? First of all, they're preaching this philosophy, like Prabhu was talking about, how they don't actually even discuss, Brahman. They're really just discussing, peace and love and oneness. Because this is very conscientious to people. They like to hear that. Oh wow, this guy is a saintly person because he talks about love and peace. And people are very taken by that. But what is real love and real peace? How much love and peace do they have? Nil. One who doesn't serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead is completely bound by the modes of material nature. They're completely in ignorance. They're worse than the general masses of people out there because they're against the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At least the people out there, they don't know. So it's a little, they suffer to some extent. They can be excused. But to these people who even read Shastra, and they twist and turn and come up with justifications to why they're God and why they're doing such things is really bogus. Because to go against Shastra and to go against the Supreme Personality of Godhead is absolutely abominable. That this is aparad. Aparad is worse than sin. One glides to lower hellish planets by committing aparad. One can't take up devotional service. It keeps going lower and lower. One can't take up devotional service. What is the use if you can't take up devotional service? So even that, what's his name? Ramakrishna, right?
Yeah.
The guy, what did he say? By your muscles, by doing
Yeah.
exercise and tensing your muscles, you can understand.
By your biceps, you can transcend and understand the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. What
right?
a beautiful.
By your biceps, you can transcend and understand the Bhagavad Gita. What? So if I go to the gym every day, I'll become some big yogi.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, okay. So the guys in the
brothers
gym all the day, all the brothers,
Yeah.
big walking around, the guys with the steroids, they must be all like spiritual advanced people, We should probably take association from them sometime soon. It's like a rascal, It's really, and people take it very sentimentally. That lady we met in the Sai Baba temple, she's read the whole Bhagavatam,
Oh,
Prabhupada's Bhagavatam. What did she say? She's
She's
like,
saying, you know, every time I go to the temple, I always.
First she said Krishna is
No,
universal and
you
God,
weren't there.
right?
You weren't there for this one. You were inside when we were going to take prasad.
This is after.
She came by a car and she was saying, you know, she was preaching to someone. She said, you know, every time I go in front of Baba, I said, Baba, I'm in front of you, but I'm always singing Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. My heart is with them, this, that, and the other thing. And then we're like, wow, this is amazing. And then in the end, she said, but ultimately, I realized that Baba is only Krishna. You only be my Krishna. You only be my Rama. Baba, you are my everything.
yeah, this
It's like
just goes to show the importance of association with the devotees, you know, sadhu sangha. It's so crazy. Like, you should read the whole Bhagavatam, Prabhupada's Bhagavatam, and you still think this stupid Sai Baba. Oh my gosh! Every temple, every Hindu temple we go to, they have him.
Yeah.
Why do they have him? So they can get a lot of,
meet
Lakshmi, a lot of money. They can get a lot of money just because it's Sai Baba, and some sentimental people like to worship Sai Baba. What did you do that lady, that person was telling that thing where, so there was this temple that was just built, and there was an altar, of Krishna, right?
What? Oh my God.
Right. There was this altar for Krishna, and Sai Baba, this guy comes and says,
sits on the altar.
Sits on the altar.
What are you doing this for Krishna? He said, but don't you see Krishna in me? And then
and the pujari is stupid. He decided, oh wow, yeah, I see Krishna in him. And they accepted him as Krishna. What me and Monsa like to do. They would like to, I like to think of it as mercy for Sai Baba. Sometimes it's just okay to.
Vishnuchita says okay, then we can put it on. Say it in a civilized way, bro. Let Vishnuchita say it. Tell, look at it.
So Mahotsa like to take a lot of prasad. So when we go to Sai Baba temples, right, we like to, Mahotsa like to give a lot of mercy to Sai Baba. So he generally goes in front of him and gives him a little maharashtra from the backside. And even this is like, he doesn't even deserve that, from his it's serious, these people, they're taking the general populace and they're really gliding them down to the hellish planets. They're really gliding them down to the hellish planets. The fact that Mahotsa is just there in front of him is a great thing. Like, to get remnants of his fat is another level. So these incarnations, so-called incarnations, who are not authorized in the Vedic literature, should completely be rejected and fought against. Very strongly, Prabhupada was very strong on this. Mahayavas, don't associate them, don't talk to them, we're completely against them. They're really the only people we really hate, Just because they're completely against everything we're about, or what the real truth is. So, we must fight against these Mahayavas. We must be learned in these scriptures so that we can go out and we can preach this message very strongly. Very, very strongly, so that people may be attracted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually making them understand what a real incarnation is, what his duties are, how he acts. This establishing that within the society, at least in India, I know in India, there's a lot of this Mayavad stuff is going on, right?
Yeah.
Like how just because they really on that sense gratification and economic development, people are very sentimentally taken by it, and they really take to that. So I know Maharaj is doing a lot of in South India, right? He does a lot of preaching like that very strongly. You hear some of his lecture and it's like, whoa, goddamn. It's very strongly established. Even Prabhu was saying that sometimes he would have he would pretend to be the Mahavad and he would pretend to be the devotee, and you'd have an argument. And he was so learned that he could even establish Mahavad philosophy, So we have to become learned like that in these shastras so we can just cut through this. What's that verse 114?
Which one?
With sword in hand, intelligent men cut through the
Vidyate Hridayagranthi.
knots of
Shrīmad Shiyante Karmani Evatmanishvari.
with sword in hand, intelligent men cut through the binding knots of reactionary work by remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not pay attention to his message? By cutting through that binding knots that they have, it's impossible to not to hear these pastimes. Nectarian, there's so much nectar in these pastimes. You just have to, it takes a little bit of attention, and then once you start reading, you really don't want to stop. So Prabhupada, especially the association of Prabhupada in these purports, the way he's giving this knowledge is really amazing. So yeah, accepting what Shastra is saying and how the Supreme Personality of God is actually established, having people who are learned in these scriptures establish those personalities, not some Shudras come up and say, oh, this guy's supreme. You don't know anything. It's like having Brahmins establish that, who are real Brahmins. So like that, one must understand all the incarnations because it's innumerable. One must be very careful to associate with the right devotees, to understand and have a very rounded understanding of the whole Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and CC. CC is very important. I hear that, I haven't read CC yet, but I hear a lot of establishing, destroying Mahayana philosophy. So those two scriptures are very important in our dealings with this, understanding that these rascals are not in this Kali Yuga, are not incarnations of Krishna, even though they claim to be. What's that, Sadguru, right?
Yeah.
This guy drank, he tried to drink poison, and he sat there and he's like, I'm good. There's this video of him, there's this whole long video where he does this whole worship to Shiva, and then, you haven't seen it? And then he sits down and he takes poison.
Who is this?
Sadguru. He's becoming really famous. I don't know what he's about. He talks here and there. It's like, I don't know what he's about. He's just talking for the pleasure of the other people's ears, not.
How do you know it's poison?
That's true.
Exactly, right?
Poison.
Trying to imitate this, imitate devotees of the Lord or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here, Prabhupada is saying how one should be able to do extraordinary things like lift the Govardhan. If you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead, come lift. Come do it. Come, go cowherd 1,000, like 1 billion cows, Can you do it? No. You can't manifest the six opulences fully. You're in the material world. That's the first thing. Is that you're conditioned by the material modes in nature, and you're claiming to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's like, and then you say, well, how can you be God? You're under the modes. It's like, well, it's a pastime.
It's my Leela.
It's my Leela. This was Janaka Prabhu was saying that story of how he is arguing with that Mayavad. And then Janaka Prabhu is one Prabhupada disciple in Adelaide. And I'm arguing with this guy. And then later on, he saw this guy he was working in this, those food trucks. Yeah, food trucks. So he was working in a food truck, and he was getting really frustrated because he was just doing so many things and then being funny. Because he had an argument with him, and Janaka was just like, yeah, forget this guy, And because he was just arguing, oh, it's Leela, me experiencing that, and this is Leela. And the guy was like miserable, completely miserable in his little food truck. And he went up to him and said, this is your Leela, huh? It's like,
amazing.
There's so much ego in them that they can't accept that they're even under the modes. It's Leela, we're all one. If we're all one, if one guy will become the Supreme, then all will become the Supreme. So what's the point of me even trying? Anyways, so I think we have towards the end 8 minutes. So any comments?
There's Prabhupada mentions in this purport whether the almost plenary portions. I found that very interesting because so plenary portions are Amsa avatars. So they're actually incarnations of Krishna.
Amsa avatars?
Yeah. Plenary portions are incarnations of Krishna. let's see, Amsavatar. For instance, Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrugna, they're all stated to be parts of Vishnu, so it's stated, but they're all Vishnu Tattva. So therefore Prabhupada is using this word almost plenary portions because the Kumaras, Narada, they're not Vishnu Tattva, they're Shakti Tattva, Jiva Tattva. So Srila Prabhupada writes in this purport in 4th canto, in Prithu Maharaj's story. Let's see what. It's a 19th chapter. So Srila Prabhupada writes that as explained before, these Shakti Avesh avatars. So Narada and Kumara and all Shakti Avesh avatars. So as explained before, these Shakti Avesh avatars are incarnations of Vishnu's power invested in a living entity. Living entities are also part and parcel of Lord Vishnu, but they are not as powerful. Therefore, when a living entity descends as an incarnation of Vishnu, he is especially empowered by the Lord. And then Srila Prabhupada writes this famous paragraph by which we conclude that Srila Prabhupada also is a Shakti Avesh avatar. So he writes, when King Prithu is described as an incarnation of Lord Vishnu, it is to be understood that he is a Shakti Avesh avatar, part and parcel of Lord Vishnu, and he is specifically empowered by him. Any living entity acting as the incarnation of Lord Vishnu is thus empowered by Lord Vishnu to preach the Bhakti cult. Such a person can act like Lord Vishnu and defeat demons by arguments and preach the Bhakti cult exactly according to the principles of Shastra. As indicated in Bhagavad Gita, whenever we find someone extraordinarily preaching the Bhakti cult, we should know that he is especially empowered by Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna. As confirmed in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Shakti Vina Nahi Tare Pravartam. One cannot explain the glories of the holy name of the Lord without being specifically empowered by him. If one criticizes or finds faults with such an empowered personality, one is to be considered an offender against Lord Vishnu and is punishable. Even though such offenders may dress as Vaishnavas with false tilak and mala, they are never forgiven by the Lord if they offend a pure Vaishnava. There are many instances of this in the Shastras. And there's also this famous verse from the Puranas. I forgot which Purana. I think it's Padma Purana. Lord Shiva tells this to Parvati. Guravo Bhagavo Shanti Shishya Vittapaharakaha Durlabo Sadguru Devi Shishya Santapaharakaha. So this word Sadguru is found in Shastra also. But the definition is, O Devi, there are many gurus who are expert in plundering the wealth of their disciples. But a bona fide guru who can remove the miseries of his disciples is very difficult to find.
Is the question now?
5 more minutes. So anyone else has anything else? This verse is very nice.
Yeah.
It's 1 or 2 verses that Shiva states in Padma Purana. They're really nice. He also states about hearing Harikatha from the lips of the non-Vaishnava. Avaishnava mukho girnam bhutam harikatam ratam shravanam naiva kartavyam sarpochishta yakapaya. That Harikatha spoken by an Avaishnava, one who is not a Vaishnava, is like milk that is being touched by the lips of a serpent. It is poison. It's not milk. And he says,
we can give it to Sadhguru.
So that's I think that's also stated. And of course, then he explains him coming as Shankara is also explained in the Bhagavatam Purana. He says, anyways, I forget. It says, Mayeva kalpita devi kalo brahmana rupina. Mayavadam asat shastram prapannam bhaujam uchyate. Mayeva kalpita devi kalo brahmana rupina. That Mayavada asat shastram. He says it's asat shastra. Mayavada is asat shastra. Prapannam, that pramana I will spread. Prapannam Bauddham uchyate. It is covered Buddhism. Bauddham uchyate. Mayeva kalpita devi. I will imagine this philosophy Kalo Brahmana Rupina, in Kali Yuga in the form of a Brahmana.
So, the Lord incarnates as manifestations of like vegetable life as well.
Yeah, that was one question I was going to ask as well. So,
Like,
vegetable, is there any?
because there's like 2 million
Eight
different
million,
forms
yeah.
of plant life.
There's a
So it
last
comes
verse.
in the purport, doesn't it?
Yeah, it comes in, that's why when I was reading it, I was
There's a
like,
last verse of the first chapter of the first canto. Bhavatyati, of the second chapter. Bhavatyateshu satvena lokan vailoka bhavana ilavataranurato devatiri anaradishu. You can read the translation for that verse. It's 1 to 34.
the last verse, right? 34? 1 to 34.
1 to 34, yeah, the last verse of that.
Thus the Lord of the universe maintains all planets inhabited by demigods, men and lower animals. Assuming the roles of incarnation, he performs pastimes to reclaim those in the mode of pure goodness.
Yeah, so like, you can, from that verse you can understand that, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because of his inconceivable mercy, listens in every species of life. But the way that mercy spreads is not like exactly like the way.
I'll find references for plant life.
We had this discussion last
I'll
time.
find references. So there is, I'll find.
Imagine if you find the Krishna apple.
Because you want to say that even the ant, the ant could be Supreme Personality God, you know.
I mean, but like it needs to be stated in Shastra. It needs to be stated in Shastra. It needs to be revealed.
So it's that was one thing I saw vegetable. Like, that's interesting that Prabhupada writes that. Never encountered a vegetable.
I'm a pig with the board.
Alright.
I'll find. There is. I vaguely remember reading something somewhere like that. One specific tree or something like that. Anyways, again, remember when it says incarnation, it's not direct. Can be empowered. Can be some living entity.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be. So that verse refers to all sorts of. So there are, and that's not very difficult to understand. That there are living entities that are empowered by Vishnu. So it doesn't have to be Vishnu Tattva. Primarily Jiva Tattva. Jai
Chanchal Prabhu ki.
Bhakta Chanchal Prabhu.
Bhakta Chanchal.
The offering went downstairs?
5 minutes to go see Ki Jai. No, not yet.
Is it off?
Offering is still.
Is it off?
No.
Why can you turn it
I'm gonna keep it on for this to go through.
These like not about to be here.
I'm just happy I didn't fall asleep.
Not the bar, come down, please.
Come up.
Wow, some bright brahmacharis. Look at that. So efficient.
But turn it off, bro.